SimWorld presents Around the Table with E and the Fat Man.
What's up, everybody? It's me, it's the B.O.B., and I'm here with my man E. How are you doing today?
Always happy to be behind the microphone, working the show with you, Bob.
Absolutely. This is Around the Table with E and the Fat Man. That is E. I am the Fat Man, and this is where we just talk about whatever we want, pretty much sports related, sometimes some pop culture stuff thrown in there, just for a little bit of, I don't know, what's the word? Some
variety in the French pronunciation.
There you go. Some fragile. Now, but anyways, we are going to talk about, well, the NFL draft just ended, so we have, 259.
259. I know that because Mr. Irrelevant is number 259.
That's right.
Else I would not know.
So 259 drafted rookies, not including all the 15 or 20 undrafted rookies that are going to be signed.
Our team.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about our favorite rookie seasons. We're both going to pick three. The NFL,
any sport, by the way, not
sport,
just basketball. I mean, we're talking about football here to begin with, but yeah, just to be clear.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that, some of the NFL draft, and our favorite, or not our favorite, our SimWorld players that we think would probably do well on the football field. So I think I will give you the honor. E, you want to go ahead and throw out your first favorite rookie season?
Yeah, well, I'm, we're not saying these are like our, the best rookie seasons in any sport ever or whatever. Like, we're personalizing it a little bit here and talking about the ones that meant so much to us or were memorable to us. And, it might have slipped out before on a broadcast or here on Around the Table, but I'm something of a Dallas Cowboys fan.
What?
To all you Commanders and Eagles and Giants and all the rest of people out there, apologies, but hey, I am. I got my Cowboy love in my heart. And I'm going to dial the clock back to 1998. Oh. This isn't a happy story for a Cowboys fan, but 1998 is
you're
the
killing
year.
me. I already know it. You're killing me.
It is the year Randy Moss entered the draft. And a couple things, I can even personalize this a little bit more. Randy kind of came from the part of the world that I grew up in. Yeah. I was right on the border of West Virginia, and he was in a little town called Rand, West Virginia, as a matter of fact. Now, I don't know that town inside and out, but it sure looked a hell of a lot like where I grew up. It had some of the common complaints of where I grew up, I would say. So, that made me kind of like him. And then just unbelievable talent, right? I saw him play at Marshall a little bit. I forget, he had like 50 touchdowns in 2 years. He was just ridiculous there. And Dallas needed a wide receiver. Michael Irvin needed a running mate at wide receiver, basically. And I really thought we were going to get him. And you know who else thought that the Dallas Cowboys was going to draft Randy Moss? Was Randy Moss. and we didn't. And that really ticked him off. So, two things. First of all, as I think everybody knows, remembers, is aware of, Randy turned out to be absolutely amazing. I mean, he was great and had some of the best seasons ever. But that rookie year, and look, he had a phenomenal rookie year. I actually looked some of these, got some of these stats up earlier. And he broke out for, I think, 15 or 17 touchdowns that year. He was just great. But the big thing he did, and I remember watching this game, the Vikings, who did draft him, played the Cowboys that year, and Randy went absolutely nuts. Yeah, he caught, that's right, he caught 3 passes, all 3 he took to the house, and it was like 160 yards. He tore us apart, and more just kept on happening like that afterwards. He never stopped enjoying destroying us, basically. So that is, again, I'm not saying this is a happy memory, but it really did. That is one of the more remarkable and memorable rookie campaigns that I ever remember was Randy Moss's first season, 1988 with the Vikings. So that's my first one to kick it off, Bob. I'll bounce the ball over into your court now. Who you got for one of your 3 top rookie seasons?
Yeah, so I know you misspoke there a little bit. 1998. I know.
98. What did I say?
88.
No, no.
But you
Randy
said
had a fantastic year in. Randy had a fantastic year in.
I'm
Pop
sure.
Warner.
I was going to say he probably had a great year in 1980.
He probably did.
Well, as a Vikings fan, that was clearly on my list. So what I will go ahead and do is I'll change it up a little bit. You were correct, though. He did have 17 touchdowns that year.
Was it 17? Yeah,
it was 17. Tied second most in his career. Obviously, no better than when he played with Tom Brady, and then they.
Yeah, right. I do remember that first year with Brady too. More than 20 touchdowns. He went nuts.
Yeah, he hit 23, but then when it mattered most, it didn't happen.
It's true.
But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to stick with my favorite team, though. And
okay, I like it.
It's not going to be probably as flashy of a pick, but I feel like the name deserves to be out there. I'm going to go with Percy Harvin. When we drafted him in 2009, I wasn't really sure what to expect. Obviously, he's an amazing athlete, but he just really wasn't sure what to expect from a smaller receiver. And we weren't necessarily known for drafting receivers after Randy Moss. I mean, we kind of fell apart there. Troy Williamson really didn't do a whole lot for us. Nate Burleson didn't do a whole lot for us. So it's like we drafted a receiver, and what's going to happen? He didn't have the greatest statistical receiving year, but man, he was. I don't know if anybody outside of Cordell Patterson, which also a Viking. Percy Harvin's a top 3. I think he's a top 3 kick returner.
I kind of think of Harvin in my memory as like a souped up version of Cordell Patterson.
Yeah, oh for sure. But yeah, I mean, he was when he touched the ball, you had to be worried that he was going to take it to the house, and obviously he had Brett Favre throwing him the ball that year, which he should have. Man, now I'm sad because now I got to think about the NFC Championship game against the Saints. Oh
well, yeah. Those haven't been terribly kind to you in recent memory. No,
just in recent ever. The only thing that's been worse to us is the Super Bowl. But yeah, for me, it just has to be. He was such an electric player for Florida. He was such an electric player for us. I hated that we let him go, and I know he did regret. He did mention later on, I think after he retired, that he regretted leaving Minnesota for Seattle, more because of he felt like Minnesota did more for his mental health, which was a big part of his him kind of falling apart at the end of the. I don't want to say falling apart, but like not doing so well at the end of his career. But yeah, I got to go with Harvin.
Yeah, it's it's so funny because, and I just looked him up. And first of all, Bob, good audible. I took your player and you audibled really well. I was impressed with that. But Percy stands out in my memory, and I bet probably I'm not the only person like this too who remembers Percy Harvin really well. Man, and like I said, I just looked up his stats. After his first 3 years with you, he'd never played in more than 9 games in an NFL season again.
Yeah.
And even in his 3 seasons with you, he never had 1,000-yard receiving in a year. TD receptions had a high of 6. Caught 6 TD passes 1 year. Was a great kick returner. Fantastic kick returner. But if you were just looking at this guy on paper, you come away a little bit like, okay, he held down a role in the NFL for 6-7 years. Congrats, that's not easy. But yeah, he was just so much more electric than that. He had so much more potential. He did have the mental health issues. I also remember the migraines.
Yeah.
He used to get really bad migraines and had a problem with that.
And I think so. I want to apologize. I said mental health. I think I meant migraines. They both start with an M.
Yeah, they do. Well, we can dig in on that a little bit. Percy may have had a little bit. Percy was definitely a sensitive person. Let's put it that way, at least, right? Yeah. And did have some issues and wasn't necessarily beloved by the entire NFL establishment, which kind of maybe contributed to him not having the career he could have had too. But yeah, came in, was a monster kick returner. In fact, I just looked that up. He returned. He did have 1,000-yard season for you that rookie year in kick returns. Including taking 2 back to the house, 101 yards. So I think that's a good call for a electric, exciting, new player to splash on the scene. But all right, Bob, I stole Randy Moss away from you with my first pick. So why don't we kick it back to you for your second? Make sure that lightning doesn't strike twice there.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with one. I was a little young, but I was still old enough to follow sports. Obviously, I would have to go back. I had to go back in my older years to watch some of this, but man, I got to stick with, like you said, we're not necessarily going with the greatest, but we're going with ones that are close to us in some of these. Allen Iverson. He was just a little guy. And nobody really expected it. Oh, yeah, he did great at Georgetown and everything, but still, for someone as little as he was, he took the league by storm. Obviously, around that same time, I mean, you had players like Shaq. I think Kobe was going to be coming out in the next year or two. Jordan this was like prime Jordan. Nobody's ever going to forget. I believe it was Iverson's rookie year. I don't think anybody will ever forget him crossing up Jordan. Ever.
Yeah. Yep. Nope.
But yeah, I mean, as a rookie, averages his 23.5 a game, 7.5 assists. He almost never came close to that again. He was not known. He had some good vision, but he wasn't known as really a facilitator. He was known as being a scorer, but he's still
scoring point. Yep.
Yeah, but 7.5 assists. He was still up there. But nobody talks about that part of his game.
Well, everybody remembers him as a scorer, an athlete, and
some thrown chairs at the bowling alley, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, and a box of chocolates too. You didn't know what you'd get necessarily.
Yeah, and whenever you talk about Allen Iverson, obviously we're talking about rookie years, but I'm going to go back to high school. He was one of the greatest high school players, especially I can't remember. Did he have? It was 7 interceptions or 7 touchdowns in a game.
Yeah, that's right.
I always forget.
Allen was a great high school football player. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah, and it's like being his size, it was amazing what he was able to do. And I always remember there was one documentary. It was talking about how the coach said, and I can't remember who it was against, but I think it was against the Giants. Deshaun Jackson. They said, "Don't kick it to him. Don't kick it to him." And what happens? Returns the punt for a touchdown with, I think, no time left. And in high school, Allen Iverson, there was a game, punted the ball off. The coach said not to punt it to him. Iverson told his coach, if he gets the ball, he's scoring a touchdown. Guess what he did? Mm-hmm. He scored a touchdown. But yeah, I mean, he carried that athleticism all throughout his life. I wish, man, if he was just, imagine Iverson being 3 inches taller, maybe 20 pounds heavier. Man, what kind of force he could have been.
Yep. Well, he did a lot.
On top of what he was.
Yeah, as I say, he sure did a lot with what he had, but what he had was 6 feet and 170 pounds, maybe in street clothes, if his street clothes got wet. That might be his weight. But no, I think that was part of the fun of Iverson too, was, I mean, look, when you're talking about most professional sports, I think we all know that these people are basically borderline superhumans.
Yeah.
But particularly in basketball, where your average guy is like 6'8", 6'9", and 250, 60 pounds, it's just a different thing. I mean, if anybody's got a chance to even just sort of, see in public or be around, I saw Kelly Olynyk once, in a public place, and Kelly Olynyk, he's for real. He's a basketball player, right? Like he can hold his own among the NBA, and he's a big guy, 6'11", 7 foot, something like that. You don't realize, what a man mountain Kelly Olynyk is. You think like, oh, Boogie Cousins, yeah, sure, he's a giant, whatever. No, Kelly Olynyk is huge. It's like, all these guys are monsters. And then you get Allen Iverson, and if he just happened to sit next to you on the bus or the subway or whatever, you'd be like, there's a normal human being right next to me. Yep. So, I think that there's a little bit of joy that we all kind of get out of that too, of just like seeing what somebody who, necessarily wasn't given every genetic blessing in the book,
Yep.
can still, just through sheer determination, skill, and will, rise to that level. So
Absolutely.
I like that pick, Bob. Excellent pick.
Well, how about what's your number 2?
Well, here's what I'm going to do, Bob. I'm going to double dip back into football, and I'm going back to my Cowboys. And this is a little bit more of a recent tale than 98 and Randy Moss. Just a couple years ago, matter of fact, I want to talk about the draft, the 2021 NFL draft. My Cowboys had a high pick that year. I think we were picking number 9, 10, something like that. And I had my heart absolutely 100% set on either getting one of 2 defensive backs, either J.C. Horn, Joe Horn, if anybody out there is old enough to remember Joe Horn, the New Orleans Saints wide receiver, his kid, and also another NFL legacy, Patrick Surtain II, the offspring of, unsurprisingly, Patrick Surtain I. And I was dying for both these, particularly Surtain. Surtain I wanted bad. And again, I forget what exactly our pick was. Let's say it's 9th. Well, Surtain comes off the board 7th, and here goes J.C. Horn 8th. And, I'm watching ESPN, and I'm just sick to my stomach because both our guys, they're gone. How are we going to fix our defense? How are we going to fix our secondary? And at this point, to be 100% honest, I had no clue who the Cowboys were going to draft. I figured we'd probably take an offensive lineman. In fact, I think Rashawn Slater, who ended up with the Chargers, was still on the board. I'm like, well, there's where we're going. But we didn't. Instead, we picked somebody who, I kind of knew this guy, but remember, college football had that COVID season too, and this dude had actually opted out of his last college season, hadn't played a game in anger in well over a year. And my Cowboys take their card up to the podium, and they pick some dude out of Penn State named Micah Parsons. And I'm like, what the hell are we doing? Who is this guy? Why are we taking this risk? What's going on? And I don't even know how much more I got to talk about this one. I think we all know what Micah did that season. Defensive
Future
Rookie
Hall
of the
Famer.
Year. Yeah, exactly. Rookie of the Year, that rookie season. 13 sacks, I believe he posted. Had just a fantastic monster year, and our defense actually really rebounded just based upon that one selection. I gotta say, as somebody who was old enough to watch Lawrence Taylor play, and of course I'm biased. I'm wearing my blue and silver glasses when I'm viewing Micah out there, but he is the most devastating, disruptive, pass-rushing linebacker that I have personally seen, I think, since prime Lawrence Taylor in the 1980s. And, this dude's 22, 23 years old. He's going to be around for 10 years, and he's probably just going to get better. So just for how much my perspective got changed because of that performance on the field, I have to call out Parsons as my second, with his 2021 coming out for my Cowboys.
Yeah, I can't argue with that pick, especially as a Penn State fan. Obviously, I was disappointed that he sat out the COVID year, but I get why he did. Nobody really understood it at the time.
Yep.
And what were you going to do? And he had to make a business decision for himself. And I mean, we still did fine, but for him, there's just every part of his game. And I know whenever he was picked, there's a lot of Cowboy fans that were like, it was a head scratcher for them. It's like, why did you need a linebacker? No, not necessarily. They did not. But he's more than just a linebacker. He can play. Honestly, he can play every position except maybe defensive tackle. He's so athletic. He's so fast. He almost was not from Penn State. I'm glad he was. Thank you for Ohio State for tampering.
Is that right? I didn't know this.
So he committed to Penn State, and then he backed off his commitment. He named his dog, after he backed off his commitment, he named a new dog that he got Brutus. Something came out, so he committed, he decommitted and said he was opening it back up, but Penn State was still in it. That happened with Brutus, and then something came out where there was some tampering. and it was from Ohio State. He ended up recommitting back to Penn State. Unfortunately, we lost. That was the same year that we had lost Justin Fields because he had committed to Penn State. I was so upset about that. Lost Justin Fields, but that season. Yeah, we almost didn't have him, but fortunately Ohio State did what they did, and the rest is history.
Wow, I did not know that, and as an Ohio State hater, this just makes me love him even more. This is fantastic.
But yeah, I mean,
the story gets better all the time. Thanks for making it better, Bob. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, as a Cowboy hater, I am so disappointed that they picked him. I wanted the Vikings to trade up for him or something. We ended up with a decent player, Darrisaw at tackle. But at the end of the day, no, that's
Christian Darrisaw, right?
Yeah, but I do think that Parsons, I mean, obviously he had a great rookie year. He had a even better statistically. I mean, tackle-wise, it wasn't better, but sack-wise, it was better. But he's just you have to game plan for this guy. Period. Yeah, because he can play linebacker, he can play end, he can cover your tight end, he can probably play some safety for you if you want him to. He is great. Future Hall of Famer, man.
I hope so. Fingers crossed. No injuries, no whammies.
So, do you want to go ahead? I don't think you're going to take my last pick. Do you want to?
Okay.
Give your last one?
If you feel confident, I'll let you run that risk. You make your own risk profiles and decisions, Bob. So my last one brings it back home to basketball and takes it away a little bit from my own personal fandom in that this person never played collegiately or pro for my favorite teams, I guess you could say. But back in 1992, not 1990, Shaquille O'Neal and his rookie year in the NBA. And, thing was I, along with everybody else paying attention to hoops at that time, had watched Shaq play for LSU, and so it's like you knew he was dominant on the college level. Obviously, you knew he was going to be a super high, if not the number one draft pick, and you expected him to be a good player, right? Like you figured this was going to be somebody who was going to have a nice long NBA career. Yeah. But the truth is two things. One, with anybody, you just don't know, until they're in the league. I mean, I can go back and point at other, maybe not quite as heralded number one picks and blue chip guys coming into the league who just didn't pan out. There was somebody known as the Candy Man, Michael Olowokandi, who was a tragic number one selection by the Clippers years ago. More recently, we've had Anthony Bennett, with Cleveland not working out at all. So you just don't know. And that was anything with the case with Shaq. What I remember, and I looked this up to make sure I was remembering it correctly, and I did, is Shaq's first opening games of the 92-93 season. 20-year-old rookie Shaq was named NBA Player of the Week. Not Rookie of the Week. No special qualifiers on it. No, precipitation trophy because you're a new guy. No, you're the best player in the league. Congratulations. And it wasn't far off from that. I did look up his numbers here. 23 points, 13.9 rebounds a game. Actually, that was the highest rebounding total he ever put up in a season. He'd go on to score some more. Had close to 30 points a game a few years with the Lakers. But, and the other thing I remembered about that first season is, there was a reason the Orlando Magic had the number one draft pick because they were garbage in the 1991-92 season. I think they won 20 games. Now, they didn't exactly set the world on fire just because they got Shaq, but basically one player, one significant change later, and that was a 500 ball club. 41-41 was their record that season, and he played every game and almost every minute and balled out. So I would have to definitely throw that Shaq season up in there. And I said it because it's true. Like, I moved to Los Angeles after the Shaq days, just a couple years after Shaq left. So I developed a little bit of an LA fandom just from going to games and hearing them all the time on sports radio like you do when you live in a place. But, during his Laker years, I wasn't a fan of the franchise. But I do have to say that those years, particularly the 3-4 peak years when he just was at his best with the Lakers, apologies to Wilt Chamberlain, who I love. Apologies to Kareem, who I love. And Bill Russell, who may be the best defensive player ever, who the description I use to try to get people to understand who Bill Russell was is imagine Dennis Rodman, but make him 7 feet tall and have his head a little bit more on straight. Let's be honest. And that was basically Bill Russell. Imagine how good he was. But I am not certain there was ever a more disruptive basketball force than peak Shaquille O'Neal. And he wasn't quite there that rookie year, but you could see that, okay, this guy might just have that in him.
Yeah.
He might be able to do this. I am not sure, if there was anybody you would take over. I just want you to play one basketball game than peak 99, 2000, 2001 Shaq, let's say. Had that coming out party with the Magic to show you all what I was going to do. So for me, Shaq O'Neal wasn't always just a TNT host. For a little while, he was one of the most dominant players to ever play this game, and his rookie year was a memorable one for me.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's a great choice. When I put together my top 5 starting lineup, he's always. I know there are some players statistically that have been better than him, but because of what he could do, his size, his dominance inside, Shaq's always going to be my starting center when I make my top 5. But it's crazy that I don't think we ever seen how good he really could have been. I know it's crazy to say, but I don't think we ever seen the best Shaq that we could have seen. And I think that has a lot to do with, and I think he said it later on after he retired, he wasn't always serious. And you don't have to be serious, but I don't think he just ever really asserted his dominance the way that he could have, because as he was just so physical and so athletic for his size, he probably could have averaged 50 points a game.
Well, I think you're right, and who agrees with you, or agreed with you anyway, is Kobe Bean Bryant. I mean, that was the root of wasn't the whole root, though. We were two alphas also wanting to be the man on the team, and they just kind of personalities didn't mesh, is some truth too. But what I know just absolutely killed Kobe was the fact that I don't think Kobe necessarily expected Shaq or anybody or everybody to quite live up to the Kobe regime of just maniacal training and getting better and blah, blah, blah. But I think he expected Shaq to at least work a little bit. And Shaq just didn't, because Shaq didn't have to. He's like, why would I bother doing that? He's like, people can't tell if Wilt or Bill Russell are better than me, and that's, and I just I eat some cheeseburgers and go out and play. Who cares? And, I saw an interesting interview with the two of them, with Shaq and Kobe, years later, both retired, and some of the fire between them had cooled a little bit. In fact, cooled considerably is the truth. And Kobe just flat out basically said that. He was like, yeah, man, I hate, he's like, you never came into the gym, you never came early, and I hated you for that. He was like, because I knew how much better you could be, and I knew how much better we could be if you were. And Shaq, and I'll try to drop my voice a couple registers for deep Shaq voice, he was like, yeah, man, you're right. he was like, I could have worked a little harder. And it's true, but hey, when you're that gifted, maybe it kept that man healthy too. For a 7 foot 300 pounder, surprisingly little wear and tear over the course of a career that long. He managed to have a very long career where he actually didn't miss as many games hurt. I mean, obviously late in his career he did, like everybody does, but you look at the first 10, 12 years of his career, and you're going to see a lot of, 70, 75, 81 games played.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see his little resurgence in his second season with Phoenix. I don't remember him being a decent player. I don't want to say not a decent player, but just statistically, he point wise, I don't know. I don't know why I didn't expect to see that he averaged 17 points at 36 with Phoenix.
That's right.
Yeah, so
That's right. No, he could do that. Well, he played 75 games that year, and
Yep.
that was 2009 when, Shaq was 46 or whatever he was. So
46.
maybe not 46, but approaching 40 probably, though.
Yeah, he was
approaching 40.
36 years old.
There you go.
Getting up there. As big as he was, like you said, the fact that he played as long as he did, especially as big as he was, I mean, they have him listed at 325. I call that. He was 7'1". He was not 325. That's like when people say Jerome Bettis was 265 or 275. Jerome Bettis was a 350-pound running back.
Right? well, keep in mind that through that, that first season in Miami, after he left the Lakers, 2004-2005, Shaq averaged 23 points and more than 10 rebounds that year, which was his 13th straight year since entering the league with a double-double, and played 73 games that year too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just actually kind of remarkable durability for some, again, within the context of somebody that size playing a physical game.
Absolutely. Just imagine what his points per game would have been if he could have just made some free throws.
I know.
Well, anyways, enough of us riding Shaq.
Yep.
I will throw out my last pick, and I'm going to switch. Some of these were when I was young. I just think it's amazing what he was able to do as a rookie. I'm going to switch to the MLB, and I'm going to go with Ichiro Suzuki. He was. I don't think people expected him to continue to play as well as he did when he switched from the Japanese league. I don't know what the league is called off the top of my head.
I think it's just the J League.
The Japan Pacific League.
There we go.
He spent a few years there, 8 or 9 years, and he came over. He came over in 2001, and still to this day, the amount of hits that he had as a rookie is still top 10 in MLB history. That just kind of blows my mind that as a rookie, and he was an older rookie too. He was 27 as a rookie in the MLB. 242 hits, still 10th all time in a season. I don't know. What do you say about it? He was in that for his entire career. He was known as being a great. He's probably. Can we say he's? I know. Obviously, we have Pete Rose and everything, but I think Suzuki may have been the greatest hitter of all time.
I like it.
But
I like it. No, I remember Ichiro coming into the league. First of all, I love that we've switched up to sports. Thanks for throwing in some baseball. I like it. And yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of the bigger, I mean, certainly, and recently Shohei coming over too.
Oh yeah.
An important one, but I don't even have that much to sort of add to your Ichiro name drop. But I will throw out one honorable mention since we strayed into baseball because it made me think of one thing too. And I did think about this too when I was putting together my three, and so it's a legit honorable mention. You got to go back. You got to be an old timer like me, I'm afraid, to remember this one. But Fernando Valenzuela, if you were around in 1981, and I was just barely old enough to remember this, but I was there. Fernando Valenzuela took sports world by storm. It was even bigger than what he was doing on the field. It was Fernando Mania. It had a name. It had a term. Fernando Mania was there. I mean, it was something. Just quickly looked him up too there while you were talking. Fernando started the season 8-0 with 5 shutouts, complete game shutouts, and an ERA of 0.5. And he was also, he was an unusual and kind of flamboyant player. He was just very gestural out there on the mound. And he also, I'm just going to say it, Fernando was just kind of funny looking. He didn't look like an athlete. He wasn't an athlete. And, didn't look like she'd be doing what he was doing out there. But yeah, just was dominant that year, became a cultural phenomenon. If you remember Linsanity, well, the precursor to Linsanity was Fernando Mania in 81. I like to say thank you, Bob, for letting me steal your first pick and for letting me conjure up the name Fernando Valenzuela with your last one on the show today.
No problem. Yeah, I mean, and to think about for Suzuki, I'll jump to Suzuki because I was not old enough to know who Fernando was. I was still 9 years away from being born. But anyways.
Being around, fair enough.
But for Suzuki, I think it's just also amazing for a rookie to also win MVP.
Yeah.
I would love to know. Obviously, it probably would be a quick search, but I'm not going to do it. I would love to know how many rookies have won MVP of their league. He won the NL MVP to go up there against Barry Bonds, won NL MVP that year. So, you're kind of in some rare territory with those names. Just crazy what he was able to do as a rookie to come from the Japan League to come over to the MLB and be better than he was, because that's not something that most people do expect. We have had a lot of players come over from the Japan League over the years, and they've had a lot of hype and just never really lived up to it. And I guess maybe him being a hitter and not a pitcher, like you said, Ohtani. He's doing both. So
yeah, true.
Made sure to pick him in my MLB fantasy league this year. So
yeah, you might want to if you have that number one pick.
Already
you might
did
want
that.
to consider that.
But yeah. So I wanted to throw in we were talking a lot of basketball, a lot of football. Just wanted to throw in a little change up there.
Mix it up there a little bit.
See what I did? A little change up. Throw a little
you
change
did.
up.
You did.
Well, I know.
I know. Before we start talking about Wayne Gretzky's first year with the Oilers,
so I know we talked a little bit about obviously all these rookies. We mentioned the draft beforehand. Is there anybody this year? What do you think? Is there any team in particular that you think did really well, or is there any player that you're expecting a lot from in the NFL draft this year?
So I mentioned I was a Cowboys fan. I think that came up earlier on this show.
Yeah.
Here's the thing is that
so sorry
intellectually, and unemotionally, I want to like what the Eagles have done.
Yeah.
And it's not even, like the Jalen Carter pick, we'll see how that, I think he's probably going to end up being fine and great and, whatever else. That's probably going to be good. It's not necessarily so much about him though. I like some of the later moves they made as well. Getting Nolan Smith and then particularly getting a player called Keely Ringo. Yep. Again, it's all just personal, but watching the draft the past couple of days, I'm sitting around saying, man, 6 foot, 390-pound defensive back. That is just what we like in Dallas. A big, rangy guy. I know his hips are kind of tight, whatever. I don't care. I want him. And he keeps on falling and falling. I thought he might have been a third-round draft pick. And I think the Eagles finally snapped him in the 6th or something insane. And then they signed Eli Ricks as an undrafted free agent out of Alabama. Eli Ricks was touted as a possible first-rounder. He didn't have a great year this year, and that's why he fell. But I got to admit, I like the Eagles. I like what they've done. Of course, they also just made the DeAndre Swift trade. They, on paper, are loaded. But I would remind everybody that the last time that the Eagles were on paper this loaded was when they added Nnamdi Asomugha, if people remember that skilled defensive back. And somehow he went from the Raiders to the Eagles and overnight turned into garbage, and they were just terrible.
Literally went from the best corner in the league to the worst corner in the league. And it is
he did,
and
like magically.
And it's one of those things where it's clear that the system that he was in with the Raiders, where he was able to play man up on his guy, that was clearly what made him as good. Because as soon as they threw him into a zone, man, he probably would have. I don't even know. I think he got cut, didn't he? He didn't make it. I don't even know if he made it a full year there.
He may not have. It was like, I saw a tweet or somebody posted something around that time, which was, the Philadelphia Eagles NFL dynasty born. What year? Here, I'm gonna quickly look up what year did Nandi go there.
Was it 2008?
It was no, it was after that. It was 2011.
Yeah, sorry, that was
2011.
I have Vince Young in my head because he dropped his dream team quote, and I forgot 2008. I think he was on the cover of Madden. So
okay. Yep.
But
The 2011 Philadelphia Eagles, and the tweet I remember, there was nobody special, just a friend of mine did it, but it stuck with me all these years later. Is Philadelphia Eagles NFL dynasty, born August 2011, died October 2011.
Yeah, that was such a man. I wish just for him and the Raiders' sake, I wish he could have got it. They would have figured his contract out in Oakland, but. Yeah, that was such a. I don't know if we've ever seen such a change in somebody from being the best to honestly. I think he was one of the worst corners in the league that year. But yeah. I mean, it's hard to argue with the Eagles doing what they did this year in the draft. I do think I'm not necessarily sold on Anthony Richardson going number 4 to the Colts.
I'm not either. I understand why they did it, but I'm not sold on it.
Yeah, I do believe, despite there's so many different reasons of why Levis fell. One, I mean, he played for Kentucky. That's like when Daniel Jones went quarterback from Duke. You draft a quarterback from Duke. What? So for Levis, he played for Kentucky. I mean. A lot of their concerns on the football field, I would blame for him being at Kentucky. The turnovers. He had to do so much, and he's so confident in himself. His confidence Favre wasn't as vocal with his confidence, but Favre was so confident in his arm that he was going to do. You could have a wide receiver triple covered. Triple covered and 2 wide receivers running wide open down the field, and he is going to try and make that throw to the triple covered receiver. But yeah, I think the Titans got something in Levis. I do think that because of him falling, I think he's going to be one of those players that has such a big chip on his shoulder that he's going to do good just because of that chip. There are some players that'll let this get to their head and they'll never really amount to anything. But I think Tannehill's still there, right? They didn't get rid of him yet.
No.
So I do think I do think Tannehill will be a good player for Levis to learn from. I think he's going to get onto the field even if Tannehill is there. I think he's going to get onto the field just because of his athleticism. So I think we'll see it. But I think the Titans, for a second round pick, I think they did solid there. I mean, Joey Porter Jr. dropping to the second round. I know he went first in the second round, but man, that just kind of blew my mind that even happened. The Steelers, I think they got a great player there, and my Vikings. I mean, I didn't know what to expect when we picked at 23. I'm not gonna. There are a lot of positions that obviously I think we could use some upgrades at, but. I think us adding Jordan Addison probably just added 500 yards on to Justin Jefferson this year. Because I just think with Addison, just the talent that he has, I think is going to open up Jefferson.
Yeah.
So
a comment.
Yeah. But yeah, so let's swing this back around to SimWorld a little bit.
Ooh,
are there any players right now that you could see having some type of success on the football field?
There are probably some guys who I'm not going to mention here, with the exception of one, who, there are some like lightning fast dudes in this game. So you could probably see some of those skills translating to the football field. I believe that De'Aaron Cruz on Gulf Coast is also a fairly talented football player, and I could see that. I could see him actually kind of being in that Allen Iverson quarterback defensive back role, right? Playing both sides of the ball at the high school level for sure. But there are a couple guys who, and I'm going to mention two guys because I've specifically noticed them before. I've specifically, I think, mentioned this with both of them, maybe while broadcasting before or something, who I could see being either like defensive ends potentially, or maybe tight ends, and maybe even doing so at the next level. And the first one of those is Jalen Tucker. He's up on the north. He's a SimWorld veteran. This is his second year in the game. 6'8", just a little bit shy of 260 pounds. He is the North's leading rebounder, 7.4 a game. I mean, he's a quality player, and actually he's got some big time hoop scholarships offers out there. Wake Forest, Clemson, Boston College, all involved. But I could definitely see a big bruising guy like Jalen Tucker, either sort of as a, tall blocking tight end who can also, with that catch radius you must have with that frame, being a little bit of an offensive weapon as well. I could definitely 100% see him doing that in that kind of role. And then also, out on the West Coast, to take it to the other coast, more again in the, the kind of tight end mode, maybe bulk him up a little bit. Could see him also as a defensive lineman. Evangelos Mullins, 6'7", 235 pounds. And, again, another talented basketball player, 9 points, almost 6 rebounds a game. And I think if you've been watching on SimWorld TV, you've definitely caught some of his athletic dunks. And that athletic word, that A word, comes into play here. Kid's an athlete. Yeah. Evangelos definitely has the athletic ability to I think, thrive in a football setting as well. So both of those guys, I'd have to look it up. I don't know if either one of them has a football pedigree at all, but I could see both of them just on size, ability, and traits translating really well to, maybe even a P5 Division I level.
Yeah. No. So I want to actually. I'm glad you brought up De'Aaron Cruz for Gulf Coast because I think his teammate. I think there are a lot of players in SimWorld Hoops, athletic wise, I think would be very, very good receivers. I do think athleticism can also quarterbacks that might not be the best quarterbacks. They still, if they're athletic, that can cover up a little bit. I mean, you have players like, I'll bring up Colin Kaepernick. I don't think he was a good quarterback, but he was such an amazing athlete that he was able to buy himself some time, and that let the defense break down and gave him an opportunity. I mean, obviously, again, did he rush from his 200 yards against the Packers in a playoff game? That's right. It's like I think there are players. It's just they might not be good quarterbacks, but as athletes, that makes them a little bit better. I'm just kind of rambling. I'm gonna jump back. So I think Suno Chapa would be a very good wide receiver, and I haven't seen him play. I know that he likes soccer. Maybe he can give it a try. He's 6'5", 180. 6'5", you can't teach 6'5". You cannot teach that. I think that he would be good. I know that Renzo Bryant for Heartland Zombies, I do know that he played football, just naturally talented at the position, just naturally, his arm strength just naturally strong. Really, he uses athleticism really to be able to see the field. And I think that at 6'3", 165, would he... the 6'3", I mean, he's 16 years old, so the 165, that's what I got to remember. These are still kids. He's 6'3", 165, he's 16 years old. You throw him in a college program, he's probably going to go to 6'4", 6'5" as it is. Throw him in a college program, he's going to be 200 pounds in no time.
Right.
So I think that... But another player, I think he's just so gifted athletically, and I'm going to have to go with, Reigning Trey's Kayvon Jackson.
Okay.
He 6'4", 214. I'm not going to be surprised if at the end of the year, we have the top 10 plays every Saturday. There's going to be probably going to have a top 10 Kayvon Jackson video at the end of the year because I mean, he dunks on everybody. He's so athletic. He dunks on everybody at 6'4", 214. I mean, I see like He's not as big yet, but he's still in high school. I
Right.
see him as like a oh man, I can't think of his name. Seattle Seahawks wide receiver. Can't think of his name.
Did they
Help
just
me
drafted?
out. No, he's been there. He's huge. Give me some help here, E.
Oh, you're talking about, hold on.
I'll swing to the
DK
other.
Metcalf.
There you go.
DK
DK
Metcalf.
Metcalf.
Second.
I was just gonna swing over. He reminds me of a DK Metcalf, Debo Sweeney, Debo Sweeney.
Whoa.
Sorry, you do not remind me of the coach of Clemson. Which I think he wasn't he a decent quarterback or something? I can't remember.
I think so.
Debo Samuel. I see Jackson as like a Debo Samuel, DK Metcalf type player. But yeah, I would love for any of these guys that might not make it in basketball, I would love to see them on the field. Hopefully, if some of them decide to make that switch in a year or two, more than welcome to, and I would love to see it.
No, there's a lot of teams. And by the way, if you want to check them out sometime, basically H-Town puts a football team on the court. Almost all their players are two-sport kids. Vincent Magic, Keith and Carter. And yeah, I think if H-Town played a little, maybe, flag or pickup game, two-hand touch or something after playing some SimWorld Hoops, they'd probably be 8-2 in that department too. So,
well, E, I appreciate. I know we had this a little bit of a longer episode than normal, but after our short one last week, we had to make up for it. So, is there any final words for the people?
No, just obviously we had a big rush of games. It's been a good week of SimWorld Hoops action, and should be some more coming up next week as we roll into May. Nothing going on Monday night, but things pick back up on Tuesday. Triple header on SimWorld TV. Make sure to tune in then.
Yeah, we're always looking for coaches, always looking for players. SimWorld NBA on Discord and YouTube. So please don't be afraid to sign up. Especially if you want to be a coach, we're looking for coaches. But thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys have a good rest of your weekend.
Yep, have a good weekend, everybody.